Shambuca's podcast, coming to you from a secret location in Cork City, with Anya and Owen as your host. And sometimes Jay.
All right, lads, welcome back to the Shambuca's podcast. It's episode 19, isn't it? And we have a very special episode today. I'm really excited about. You're excited as well, aren't you?
I haven't heard it. You've heard a bit, like I haven't heard anything yet.
I know the story, and I'd say a good few people do, because a lot of people would have heard of it from Rachel talking about it herself. But we've Rachel O Sullivan on today. Hi, Rachel. How are you?
Hi.
Do you want to give people a little introduction to what you're coming on to talk about today?
Yeah, I suppose in the last year I've been very unwell, you may as well say. I've had 2 massive lung surgeries, and in the meantime I've suffered badly in the last couple of months with my own mental health. So in the last couple of weeks I've just decided to try and use my social media to raise awareness, and just even to help one person that might listen to this. So yeah.
Yeah, and as well, like Rachel, you have a good enough following on Instagram as it is. Do you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, if just one person took anything from it, it would be something, like, so.
Yeah, and especially, like, don't mind now the COVID. Yeah. Like, COVID's enough. Then don't mind COVID, and then to have all the illnesses, like, you, as we'll talk about in a second, you had them things happen, and then it was COVID.
Yeah.
Do you know, that is very heavy duty stuff. Like,
I think people forget as well, like, just because COVID is going on, people forget about that. Still, everybody else's problems is going on while COVID is happening.
On top of it, yeah, that's so true, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I agree. And like, because of both the lung surgeries that I had, in the end I was diagnosed with the early stages of COPD. So that means like I'd be at very high risk, like, and I'm only 22 years of age. So
and what is COPD?
So it's lung disease. So I just have the early stages, but I know like people who've had it like towards later life, and they're like fully dependent on oxygen, so they need to have an oxygen tank on them like 24/7 and stuff. Now hopefully like I won't get to that stage, but they did diagnose me with the early stages of that after both my lung surgeries.
Jeez, that's mad, isn't it? So I'll go into it now. I'll go into the mental health start of it, because I suppose the lungs were more recent, so I'll go back to the beginning. When did you kind of notice that you had issues with your mental health, and did you ever have any negative coping mechanisms for it? Like, I don't know, going drinking or binge eating or anything like that?
Yeah, no, to be honest, like, I've suffered with my mental health for as long as I can remember. I was very young anyways. But like when I was younger, I did attempt like suicide several times. Now, thank God, obviously I came out of that and stuff. But I always kind of, like, I'd have my down days and then I'd snap out of it and stuff like that. But it was only in the last couple of months that it kind of came on me to the point where I couldn't shift how I was feeling, you know. And when I was younger, like, I did drink a lot. I feel like, looking back now, I don't think I had like an actual addiction, but it could have turned into that very easily. Do you know, it was more that I went drinking just to try and cheer myself up kind of a thing. But then it was like a weekly thing, and then it was almost every day at one stage, do you know.
That's the exact same as what happened to me. And I think it's crazy now, like, I shared my story with like attempting suicide as well, and everyone who has attempted suicide and everyone says they regret it and they're so glad that it was failed. Do you know what I mean?
Of course,
you just hear that and listen, like, don't even bother trying, because you look back and you're going to regret it so much. You know what I mean? It's so powerful.
And it's mad how quick you can regret it. Like, there was one time there that I attempted it, and when I was rushed to hospital, literally as soon as that happened, I regretted it straight away. And that was like literally instantly, like.
Oh my God, that's mad. Would you be comfortable sharing what way did you try to attempt that time when you went into hospital?
I tried to overdose. That was a couple of years back now, but I got rushed to hospital because obviously I had to be pumped and stuff like that. So
you got pumped and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, that's scary. I remember.
I was young when that happened. I'd say I was only about maybe 15 or 16 at the youngest. Like.
Yeah. And how old are you now?
I'm 22 now.
22 now. Oh, yeah.
It's mad that a lot of people who are coming on, and like us ourselves, well, not you particularly, but other people, it starts when you're very young, when you just get into your teenage years, and it's like if school just fucking talked about it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I know it's frightening, like, because looking back at it, like, I have a younger brother now, he's only 12, and like, to think that, like, at that young, people are thinking of those things now, it's scary. Like, to me, at that time, it seemed normal, but looking back at it, like, 15 and 16, thinking that low in yourself is sad, like, you know.
That is actually so true. And I'll ask you as well, I know you're working for healthcare as a healthcare assistant for a while, and I want to say thank you for that, because like that is a hard job. It's really
Oh,
tough.
it is, yeah. Physically and mentally, it's very hard work, like, you know. But I found it very rewarding. Like, I think there's something very rewarding about being able to help someone that can't do it for themselves, like, you know.
Yeah, and it shows that you're a very caring person. You know, anyone who works in a field like that, it shows they care so much about other people. Yeah, it's mad. I was going to say to you there, because the work you do is so hard, I'm sure you like to do stuff for relief, like parties and stuff like that. And do you want to tell us a bit about Boxed Off, was it? I think last year.
Yeah, so to be honest, like when I was working full-time in the nursing unit, I didn't really have time to go out or anything. On my days off, I was so physically drained from working so much that I used to even really go out or anything, you know. So when it came to Boxed Off, that was the festival. It was on the end of September last year. So this was kind of in the works for weeks. Like, I had planned to go to that. So I hadn't like been out much beforehand or anything. So went to Boxed Off, and like before this now, I was of good health. Like, I was never unwell or anything. The worst I ever suffered from was just asthma, like, you know. So I went to Boxed Off, and the whole day I was feeling perfect and everything. I was having a great time. And then that evening, I'd say it was about like 7 or 8 o'clock, I got a really bad pain on the right side of my chest. Now, it came out of nowhere. Like I said, I was feeling perfect all day and every day up to that. Like, so I got that pain in my chest, and like at first, you know, I was at the festival, I kind of just ignored it, like didn't really make anything of it.
In my chest before, and you dismiss it, like, you know, whenever, especially when I was in addiction, there was a few times I get a little pain. You know, sometimes if I drank loads of caffeine, I'd go, oh, I have a pain in my chest there, and you just dismiss it, especially when we're young, you know.
Exactly, yeah, and especially, you know, if you're at a festival, you're there living your best life, the last thing you're going to be thinking of is going to actually be
your chest.
Exactly, yeah. So at first, like I said, I just made nothing of it, and then we were walking back to the bus to Cork at the end of the festival that night, and it got so much worse. And like at that point, I was kind of thinking, should I say it to someone? But the festival was up the country, and I knew that if I said it to the bus driver, they probably would have sent me to the paramedics there, and I would have been hospitalised. It was in Meath, County Meath. So it's nearly 3 hours from Cork.
Oh my days, that's actually really frightening.
At that point, you probably just wanted to go home.
So,
like, you know?
Exactly, and like, of course, like I wouldn't have had any family up there or anything, and like when I was thinking, I was like, right, I'm just not going to say anything, because obviously I don't want to be hospitalized up there with no family or nothing. Like,
and everyone's drunk when you think about it. At a festival, everyone's pissed, so it's like even if you said to one of your friends, like, oh, my chest,
no one would take it in order.
No, they'd say, oh, you be crying, girl, just drink a can. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And now, to be fair, like, I'd never really be a one that would get sick much after drinking. Now, unless I drank like a lot, or else if I mixed loads of drinks or something, then I would physically get sick. So I got onto the bus, and I was like, I feel like I'm going to get sick, like, and then the vomiting started when I was on the bus, and I got sick. But from me to Cork, I'd say I got sick like 30 odd times, over and over, just could not stop myself from getting sick. And the only way that I was comfortable was if I was holding my side and like bent over, because the pain was getting so much worse, you know. It started off like mild pain, but developed into something like major so quickly.
And that's not a fucking drinking getting sick. Like, if you're drinking getting sick, it'd be twice, like 30 times. That's fucking vicious, like. And
exactly, that's what I was thinking.
Was anyone worried at that stage? Like, I know you were worried, but other people were on their own. Were they worried?
To be honest, I don't think so. I think no one, I actually don't even think anyone realised I was getting sick. Like, I think that's how everyone was just in their own world, like they were all just having their own good time or whatever. No one was kind of paying any attention until I got off the bus in Cork, and it stopped by the theory test centre in the city, and I got off and I got sick so many times when I got out of the bus, and then I felt like I was going to collapse. So I got myself into a taxi and I got home, and my mum was in Spain at the time, so I was home on my own, like, and I was just lying there and I was thinking, like, obviously I can't get into my car and drive myself anywhere, and I was like, maybe I should just try and lie down, and maybe if I sleep it off I'll be okay. So I went to sleep and I set an alarm for like 2 hours later, because I knew that it was something bad and I was afraid I wasn't going to wake back up.
Oh,
like,
you were afraid to actually fall asleep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whoa.
and I was on my own as well, so obviously it was frightening, like.
That couldn't be more isolating. Like, don't mind, right? I remember I talked the story, one of my stories before, when everyone's drunk and you're going through something, you feel isolated as it is, and then you get home and you're home alone still.
Of course, yeah, it's
That's
not
very
nice at all,
scary.
you know. It is, yeah. So like my alarm went off then that morning, and I rang 999 at that stage, because like I have a toilet in my room, literally only about 4 steps from my bed. I couldn't even get up to go to the toilet. I could not move. The pain was so bad. Like,
Oh, in your chest, the pain was so bad, you
Yeah.
couldn't even get sick when you needed to get sick anymore.
couldn't get sick, couldn't go to use the toilet, couldn't move. The only way it was comfortable was when I was lying on my side. So I rang I got through to like the operator that speaks to you while the ambulance is on its way out. And she just kept, you know, talking to me, making conversation to make sure I was staying conscious and stuff like that until a paramedic got here. And at that stage, my brother was out coming home and he opened the front door and he left the paramedics in. Now, I have like a spiral stairs at my house, so like a stretcher wouldn't be able to fit up. Right. So the paramedics came into my room and they gave me the gas and air that you get when you're in labour. And the paramedics carried me on either side down to the hall downstairs, and then they wheeled me out to the ambulance. And then I was rushed to the CUH, and they done an x-ray straight away when I was brought in. And within about 5 minutes later, they came out to me and they said, we can't see your right lung at all. We're going to have to put a tube into your lung straight away. And like, I thought I just had like a like severe chest infection or something. Yeah. And like they said to me that if I hadn't rang the paramedics when I did that, the next thing that would have happened would have either been a heart attack or a stroke.
Wow.
So,
like, did you feel like that, like your lungs were affected at all? Like, were you having trouble breathing then during like all the trips?
Oh, it was, yeah. Like when I woke, I could barely breathe. Like it felt like how I would explain it to someone would be like, it felt like someone had a pillow like over my face and I was still trying to breathe through it. I felt so restricted.
How much hours was it after that you first got the chest pains that you did go into the hospital then?
About 12 hours.
And see, you thought it was something minor, you know what I mean? And imagine the lung collapsed and the lung was collapsing for 12 hours.
Yeah. It was gone, like.
Oh yeah, like you could barely see my right lung in the X-ray. They said, and that's why they said that like it would have been a heart attack or a stroke if I'd left it, because my heart was under so much pressure because it was only one lung and it was trying to work with the pain of everything that was going on as well. So it could have been so much worse if I hadn't went to the hospital when I did, you know.
I'm actually in complete shivers. That is so scary. And like, imagine just going to a fucking festival. Do you know what I mean? You're just going for a fucking laugh, and then like the most
24 hours later, I was completely hospitalized and couldn't do anything for myself. Like, but I think in a way, you know, I was kind of happy. Like, I was more relieved in a way that it happened the way it did because I didn't have time to panic. So like when they came out to me and they said like, we need to put the tube in right now, it wasn't a case that I had like hours to sit there and get nervous and think about it. They rushed me in and they done it straight away, you know. They put the tube in my lung while I was awake. Like they gave me morphine.
Lung again, is it?
Yeah, well, the plan for that was that they were hoping that if they put the tube in, they would hook it up to the suction on the wall and the air would hopefully inflate it. So after like 3 days of being hooked up onto the wall and there was no progress, so at that stage then they decided that I would need surgery on it because they'd need to attach my lung back up, like it said.
Was your mum still in Spain?
My mom was in Spain, and like it was her first holiday going without like my younger brother or anything, and it was for her 50th. So I didn't want her coming home early or anything. So I was just assuring her like that I'd be okay and whatever. Now she was due to fly into Cork the day of my surgery, and her flight was delayed. So she didn't get back into Cork until I was after coming out of surgery, and I was in resus. But she was there for when I woke up. But like I did go through it all on my own, like, you know.
And was it a big surgery that was done?
Yeah, it was a big surgery because lung surgery is so invasive. They need to give you an epidural beforehand. So they injected into my spine before they put me to sleep. And when I woke up after the surgery, I had a urine bag attached to me and everything. I was paralyzed from my waist down for 4 days after because of the epidural.
Oh my, there's nothing more serious than that.
That's an ordeal in itself, like, you know what I mean? Just like the whole recovery process. How, like you look fine now and everything. Like, how long were you kind of before you got back to a bit of normality then?
No, and you don't even know what's coming. You don't even know. It wasn't even just the one lung. You don't even know what's coming. Right. It's like she didn't get a fucking break at all.
Right, go on.
Yeah.
No, yeah, with the first lung. Yeah, how long did you say?
The exact same thing happened my other lung.
Wow.
And were you still recovering from the other lung?
I was, yeah. I was literally only getting better, and I got up one day and I felt the pain coming on, and I was like, oh God, no, this can't be it. And I knew the pain because it was nothing I ever felt before. So I went to my own GP, and he was like,
the other
no,
side?
Rachel, like, sorry?
Was it the other lung?
The other lung, I was getting the same pain in. So I went to my own GP, and he was like, no, Rachel, like, there's no way, like, it's too soon. There's no possible way that could happen again. And especially not to the other lung so soon and whatever. But he was like, because I don't have the facility to give you an x-ray here in the doctors, like, I am just going to refer you to the CUH just to be on the safe side. So I went back to the CUH, and they done the x-ray. And when they done the x-ray, they were like, yeah, your lung is collapsing, but it's not as severe as the first time because it's gradually collapsing. So they didn't have to rush me in for surgery straight away, because the first time my whole lung had just dropped, whereas this time it was slowly dropping on the other side. So they were able to give me a date and sent me home, and then I came back in for surgery on the second lung then.
That must have been really scary, because for the first time, like you said there, and I'm sure like you said that for a reason, it was all really fast, so you didn't get the chance to think, and then you actually were sent home to think about your lung and that you were getting surgery. What was that little bit of time actually like?
Well, that time it was frightening, because like when I had the surgery the first time, it all went well. Like obviously the mental side of it was very hard and everything, but physically I recovered well from it and stuff. And the longer I had to think about the second one, I was thinking, right, they're putting me to sleep for maybe 7 or 8 hours again, and this time I mightn't be so lucky for it to go as well as it did the first time. I was afraid, to be honest, the second time that they were going to put me to sleep and I wasn't going to wake back up, you know.
That is what I was actually going to ask. That was the next question I was going to say. Like, was there any moments that you actually thought you were going to die? And if there was, can you bring us through what that actually felt like? Because I think, like, I haven't really actually fully experienced something like that.
To be honest, I think it was more now, like they never gave me an explanation as to what caused it, nothing. Like they literally have no explanation whatsoever how my lung just dropped out of nowhere. But I did smoke a lot beforehand, so I do think that had a massive part to play in it. And I think the regret that I would have had when, like that time when I was worried that I wasn't going to wake back up, it was more that I was lying there and I was thinking like this whole thing could have been self-inflicted, and like was it really worth smoking a few fags? And now like I mightn't even like live to see another day after this operation, like, you know.
Yeah, so you went through a phase of kind of blaming yourself because like you thought it was
100%. Yeah, 100%. And like both times after the surgeries, I had physio afterwards. So like I would have been bedbound for 4 days because I had the urine bag attached to me and everything. And like I said, the epidural had me paralyzed from my waist down. The nurse would come in like every few hours with a big block of ice, and they'd stick it to my back, and I couldn't even feel it. Like they'd hold ice up to my back and I couldn't even feel it at all. That's how, like, I had no feeling whatsoever from the waist down. And I had physio after a couple of days. And I remember the first time he came in, he brought this, I actually have it next to me to show you. It's like this breathing thing. So there's like 3 ball things in it, and you're supposed to breathe into this, and it's like it'll move the balls up or whatever. And you know, I laughed at him when he brought it into me. I was like, obviously I'm going to be able to do that or whatever. And I breathed into it and I couldn't even move one of the balls in it. And that was probably one of the most degrading things for me, because that kind of taught me how sick I actually was.
How would you explain that? How low your breath is or something?
Strength of your lungs.
Yeah, like, do you know, this is the stupidest example ever. I'm so sorry to do this, but you know the tunnel?
Yeah.
I always hold,
and you hold your breath from start to
finish.
Yeah,
I always do that, and I can only get halfway through, but you can do the full thing. So, like, for example, like Rachel would have only gotten even like a meter, so to say, even. That's really scary.
Yeah. So after both the surgeries, I was told that I couldn't fly for 3 months, because obviously the air pressure in a plane and stuff with my lungs, and I'll never be able to go like diving, I think, because of the pressure when you're underwater or whatever. But other than that, like, they haven't told me of anything else that I can or can't do. Like, as of right now, I do feel fine. I do get the odd shooting pain every now and then, and that, like, I'm kind of like, oh no, please, not again, because it can happen again. But as of right now, anyways, I'm fine, like, thank God. But
that's good anyway, at least.
And breathing, like, breathing is something like, it's so fucking important. Like, we all
it is,
if you're not breathing, you're dead. Like, that's literally how breathing goes. And imagine actually struggling to breathe. That's
why they give you the epidural as well, because to ease the pain. Because, you know, say like if you broke your leg and it was a really bad break and you had to get surgery on it, you just keep your leg up and rest it for a couple of weeks and it would recover. But your lungs don't stop working. So even though they've been operated on, they're still constantly working. So, you know, they don't really get a chance to like just rest it and heal it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And like you said there, that you had especially the second lung, you were thinking, oh, is it self-inflicted? Is it because I smoked and stuff like that? Was there any moment when you were like, you got angry and you were like, why me? Why am I 21? My fucking lungs are collapsing.
Yeah, no, I think, to be honest, like I was never really annoyed in that sense. The only thing that kind of was annoying for me was that, like, within 24 hours, I completely lost my independence. Like, I went from a week beforehand, I was like working full-time in a nursing unit as a healthcare assistant, changing other people's urine bags and changing other people and washing them. And a week later, I needed my mum to shower me. Do you know?
That actually shows, like, how much we need to use gratitude, because, like, no matter how fit, no matter how healthy, like, Rachel wasn't fucking boxed off.
Yeah.
And, like, in a click of a finger, that all really did change.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know, I think, like, everyone, I don't know whether it just comes naturally to people or what, but I think everyone, like, they hear stories of something bad happening to someone, but, like, you kind of brush it off and you're like, oh, bless them, like, that's so sad or whatever, but you never think it happened to you.
Yeah, so true. It is really, really true. That's such a good point. And, like, as you said there, like, you were working full time, and this is something I've experienced as well, Lou. I'm not been able to work over my back as well. What has it been like, not being able to work and to adjust to that? Like,
I think, like, at first, like, when after my first surgery, I tried to go back to work like straight away, and I probably rushed back into it too soon, you know. And then my lung collapsed the second time in February of this year. So after I recovered and I was just started going back to work a week, and that's when, like, the whole coronavirus thing kind of came about, and like in Ireland and stuff. So I was let go then from work because it was just too high risk for me just so soon after a lung surgery to be around other people, especially with a virus that attacks your lungs. Like, I wouldn't stand a chance, like, you know.
Yeah. So, like, do you know when you
like, I suffer, like, I can relate to you with the back problem, because like, usually, do you know, if you get an epidural, it's when you're in labor. So, like, you never get an epidural 3 months apart unless it was in a situation like surgery. So, like, I've suffered so badly with my back because they've, like, injected into my spine so near each other.
Epidural hurts your back. That's why I've always said when I'm having a baby, I will try by all odds not to get it, because it is a huge side effect of epidural. Remember, we were watching One Born Every Minute, and I said that to her about epidural. Like, it's fucking
It is, and
scary.
it's so intense because there's so many things that can go wrong when they're giving you the epidural. Like, if they inject that wrong, they can paralyze you. So
Yeah,
like
it's so
they
close to the
done, like
spine.
they were putting it in for me, and like when they were putting it in for me before my surgery, they had like a surgeon literally pinning me down while someone else injected into my spine, and they were all just shouting at me, telling me not to move and all this. Like, it was frightening, like, you know, especially on my own then as well. But like in regards to being out of work, I think I was always kind of a person that, you know, I'd go into work and I'd complain from the start of the shift to the finish until I got home. But I think that looking back at it now, I didn't realize how important work was towards your mental health until it kind of took an effect of me being out of routine completely, you know.
And like, for all those months of kind of you were recovering, and then the second lung, it was a lot of chaos. So it's kind of like, do you know how do you know the automatic pilot? Like, you're just going on automatic, and you're just functioning because you act automatically. And then like you came to terms with, right, the 2 lungs, you were healing from that, and COVID, you've no job. Like, that's when everything slowed down, do you know? And how did that affect your mental health?
Like for the first month or two, I was fine, and then I think it just out of nowhere, just one day I just woke up and I just felt miserable, like absolutely miserable. And like, there was nothing, do you know, if something bad had happened to me that I could have been like, right, I feel depressed because of this. At least when people were asking me if I was okay and what was wrong with me, I could have been like, look, I feel down because of this. But I had nothing, like there was no reason for me in my head to feel as bad as I did.
Say, because like, if that happened to me with my lungs, I'd literally be lying down the bed. I'd have you bringing me up this, you bring me, I'd be, no, but like, so to say nothing happened that morning. It just kind of, it all hit you nearly.
It did, yeah. I think it was just, I suppose, the like everything with the trauma of what happened for like months up to it, and then the fact of completely having no routine. Like, I was waking up every day for nothing. I had nothing to do every day. Do you know what I mean? It was like, what was the point? And then I was waking up and I was feeling absolutely miserable. And this went on for like 2.5 weeks or 3 weeks. Like, I just kind of secluded myself from everyone, and I stopped meeting up with like my friend, and I just kind of distanced myself from everyone, and thinking that it would make myself feel better, when if anything, it just made myself feel worse, you know. So in the end, like, my boyfriend was like, look, Rachel, what's wrong or whatever. And then I just kind of broke down to him, and he even said to me, he was like, Rachel, I didn't realize that you were feeling that bad in yourself. Like, you know, he was like, you need to speak to someone. He was like, it's not nice for anyone to be feeling like that every day. And it wasn't like a case that like I wanted to be dead. I just didn't want to wake up every day feeling as bad as I was feeling. Like, I just couldn't shift it. No matter what I'd done, I just couldn't seem to shift it at all. So that's when my boyfriend rang Pieta House for me. And then they got in contact with me then after. He called them just to speak to me in person and whatever. Like, so.
And what did you notice? Like you said there, whenever you opened up to your boyfriend, like once you opened up to him, what was kind of the thing you had to get off your chest? Was it off your chest? Pardon fucking fun, like, do you know what I mean? I just laughed after I said it. At least we can still have a fucking laugh, do you know what I mean? That's important. If we didn't laugh, we cry, like. But what I was saying there is, what did you have to, what came out like? What was it that was really affecting you?
To be honest, like, even still to this day, I don't know. Like, I was just feeling so low and so bad, and I couldn't point a finger on why. And that was why I found like that in the last like couple of weeks now, while I've been doing the counselling with Pieta House and stuff like that, she's helped me to like try and, you know, point to something like that's the reason why I've been feeling the way I have and stuff like that. So I'm learning to try and like, if say I wake up and I'm feeling miserable, she has taught me that it all starts with a thought. So that like something has to go through your mind for you to wake up and be like miserable for the day. You're not just miserable for no reason.
That's so true, isn't it? Yeah. And like as well, like I said a second ago, like you were literally living on automatic pilot for a good few months, and like that's always like automatic pilots, your head always being busy. You're always thinking about something, there's always something going on. And for a month, like you said, you kind of adjusted with the stillness, but like it must have gotten really quiet, like isolated in your room, you're not working. There's a lot of change there. And like sometimes what can happen is what's your depressive hormone called again?
Serotonin.
Your serotonin can just go
Drop.
down. Yeah, it can just drop and like in your experience there was a lot of reasons. Like you suffered with your physical illness dramatically, and it was 2 traumatic things. Then lockdown, then the job, and there's a lot of stillness and quietness there that I'd say is affecting so much people at the moment. And like Rachel done, I'd say it actually was really hard to just talk to your boyfriend. Was it to just fucking say it? Was that very tough?
Yeah, it was, because what I struggled the most with was like, how do I tell someone, because I don't even know why I'm feeling like this myself.
Yeah.
That happens to me a lot, you know, now, and not to that level now, because just sometimes now I'd feel a bit sad and stuff, and I'm still grateful. I just get a bit depressive in myself, and I know that I've so much things to be grateful for, but the mood's still there, and you feel guilty nearly. You feel nearly guilty for feeling low.
That's how I felt. Like when I went to my own GP, I said to her, I was like, I feel so bad because like there's no, like in my eyes, there was no reason for me to feel that bad, you know? So I was like, I feel guilty because I feel like I'm like bringing everyone else down with me without even intending on that happening. But I just can't seem to shift it, like, you know.
That shows how much of an empath Rachel is, though. Like myself, like if Owen now, just for example, if you were really upset now or something, which it wouldn't be like you, but you just say, I'm upset and I'm going to rest and I'm going to get over it, and you deal with them. For people like me and Rachel, we'd be suffering and kind of taking out on other people, but then we'd feel guilty for taking out on other people.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
And like,
it can come out in like different people, all different ways. So like I know, like if I'm talking to someone in my family and they might be having like a hard day at work, so something might happen at work, they might come home then and be like cranky towards everybody else as a kind of a relief then. You know what I mean? So it does happen. Everyone has a different way of coping with it, you know?
They do, everyone has their own way of dealing with things. But like when my boyfriend contacted Pieta House, like when I was waiting on them to get back onto me, I contacted my own GP and then I went and spoke to her. And now, like I said, I have suffered with my mental health since I was younger, but I never took antidepressants or anything because I was at a stage when I was younger that I kind of like I had been suggested to take them, but I felt like at that stage when I was so young, I didn't want to become dependent on them or whatever. And I always was able to kind of get myself out of it after like a week or two. So I never bothered. But then this time I was like, maybe I do need some bit of help on getting myself out of this. Like, so my own GP even said it, the amount of people that have been suffering with their mental health in the last couple of months, in, like just because of lockdown and everything. She was like, you're not on your own. Like, she was like, it's hit so many people. So many people have come to me and said the exact same thing. So then she prescribed me with antidepressants, but she was just saying, you know, everyone needs help every once in a while, and this might just be what you need to get yourself out of this rut that you seem to be in. Because she was like, it kind of felt like I was in a black hole, and like no matter what I'd done for myself, nothing was helping to get myself out of it. So she was like, you're kind of at a loss, so maybe this is what you need to try and get yourself out of that rut that you're stuck in, you know.
What medication did she want you to take?
So I was put on Escaprex.
I actually never even heard of that one.
No, I wouldn't be sure of antidepressants anyways, but I was put on those, and then I was put on medication called propanol, and I was to take those when I felt like anxious and stuff like that.
Right, they'd be the ones that I'd say could be addictive. Them ones.
Yeah, well, I did find that how, like, I could understand how that would become addictive for someone, because any time after I got them that I felt any bit like on edge or like anxious or anything, I was taking them like way too regularly, do you know?
Like, that's so true. My what are they called again? My psychiatrist. I have Brintalex, and I'm going to be on that for about 4 years because it just stabilizes me, and it's just, my life's at a good place now, but it's for in cases something really major happens and I just need it to keep me going. But whenever I'm high anxiety, I get a thing called, oh, I can't think what it's called now, lads. I'll have to put it in the comments, but it's a relaxer. And when I used to, like, whenever we were first dating, remember I told you, I'm only supposed to take in like emergency situations when I'm very high stress. And I would have been taking a half before I went out to him. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous. It's just.
I was like that. I was taking them at silly times when I was only feeling a small bit anxious. Like, it's normal for everyone to feel some bit anxious. Like, if you went into, like, you know, it's sometimes nerves and stuff are a good thing for certain situations. And I felt like I was to take them all the time.
That's so true. Like, nerves, humans need nerves.
Yeah, it's a natural thing.
Yeah, but then I get a thing, I get a little tickle going, oh, I'm nervous. And I want to take a relaxer.
Take one.
And you're really like, you have a great awareness because you even noticed then you were like, oh no, I'm not liking this. And you decided to stop taking the relaxers, didn't you?
Yeah, well, see, like, I've always kind of been like that with medication anyways, because when my lung collapsed and I was on like 30 or 40 tablets a day. And like even the pharmacy didn't even keep the tablets in the pharmacy. They had to order them in. They were that strong. And I was advised when I was taking those that, like, to try and stop taking them as soon as you can because they're so addictive, like, you know. So it was the same this time around. Like, I just try, like, as soon as I noticed that, I was like, look, I don't even want to be dependent on medication to make myself happy. You know, I need to work on myself for myself and not feel like I need to take a tablet to be happy, you know.
I didn't even think about that, all the medication you would have been on recovering from that. I'd say, were you on some very strong painkillers?
Oh yeah, I was like, honestly, like, I'm not even like going to sugarcoat it. I was whacked all the time.
Oh
like,
my God. And see, that's what happens. Like, some people, do you know, we hear all the stuff in America, like a fellow will come back from Iraq, whatever, and he'll be in a bit of pain, whatever. They give him stuff like that, and then people are like, oh yes, this is lethal.
Yeah.
I'm whacked out of my head.
Addicted to it, then they don't even realize.
Yeah, but it, like, a weird thing started to happen to me when, like, after the surgery, I would wake at the exact same time every night when I came home to take tablets. Yeah, and like, I couldn't even.
Your brain automatically wanted the tablets.
Yeah, it's like your brain automatically is used to taking them, and I'd wake so bad with the pain that I'd have to literally pull myself up, take the tablets, and then I'd be able to go back to sleep, no batteries. But I would wake automatically at 5 to 1 every night. It was so weird.
Fucking crazy. Was there side effects of all your medication? I know you said there you were whacked like a zombie. Was there any other side effects?
Well, for me, there wasn't, no. Like, I was lucky, like, everything, like, I didn't have any allergies, like, everything for me kind of went smoothly. Now, that's not to say that if someone else took all the medication I was on, that it mightn't affect them differently. Yeah. For me, I was lucky, like, but, like, with the antidepressants and stuff like that, it was the same case. Like, I just wanted to stop taking them when I felt like I wanted to take them all the time. I was like, right, this can't carry on, and I'm just going to stop taking them. Now, I know with antidepressants, you're supposed to go back to your GP and they're supposed to lower the dose and kind of ease you, like, off them slowly. I didn't do that. I just stopped taking them. And I know you're not supposed to do that because it can hit you and make it feel worse than before you even started taking them.
How long were you taking them before you decided to stop taking them?
I was only taking them for a month and a half, so maybe
that wasn't too bad.
So I literally just stopped taking them then, and I haven't taken them since. Now, like, what I just found strange about the antidepressant situation is even when I went back to my GP afterwards and I was on the medication for a few weeks, she asked me how I was feeling, and I was like, oh, do you know, I feel like a lot better since I came the first time and whatever. She was like, oh yeah, we're just going to up the dose anyway. Like,
that is very strange now. That is a weird one.
Like, and it's so strange to know how you can go to a GP, like, say, for a cold, and they'll be like, oh, there's nothing we can give you. You just have to leave it run its course. But, like, they'll just happily give you antidepressants without you even asking for them in some cases.
It was like, we had a girl on the podcast a couple episodes ago, Jamie, and, like, she was taking antidepressants. And one of the side effects for the antidepressants was, like, may have, like, suicidal thoughts or tendencies. You know what I mean? It's such strange that, like, you know, they prescribe something like that when it's trying to prevent something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, no, it don't make sense.
Yeah, I'd always shout from the rooftops that GPs are honestly, they're fucking shit. with dealing with mental health, they don't have a clue because they're so generalized. Like they don't know fuck all about mental health in their brain.
Practitioners, like, so they're only making kind of guesses.
Well, like what Rachel said there, it's like you go in and you say, oh look, I'm suffering with all this, that, the other, and they'll give you, usually what they'll do is they'll give you something for your depression, and then they'll give you another tablet whenever you're anxious, and they'll say, oh, take this whenever you feel you need to. That is not good enough guidance for someone who's suffering mental health. Like you can take anything from that, like whenever you're anxious. Do you know people get anxious before they get on the bus?
Yeah.
And some people are
that was literally me. Yeah.
Away.
And I was getting more anxious in situations that I would have never been anxious before because I was so isolated from people for so long that then whenever I was even going into the shop, I felt anxious. And at that stage, I was like, should I be taking them now?
I'm dealing with that a lot as well. How long was your waiting for Peter House? How long were you waiting to be seen?
So when my boyfriend rang Pieta House, I went to my own GP like the following day, and Pieta House told him that they'd be in contact with me. So they rang me back, I think it was like 3 days later. And that phone call was like, you know, just to see how, you know, like how suicidal or how depressed you were feeling and whatever. So it was kind of just for them to get an idea of me as a person, because obviously with the virus and stuff, they couldn't actually see me in person. So it was all done over the phone.
Yeah, I'd say it was prioritizing, wouldn't it have been? You know?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So they needed to speak to me and figure out what my needs were and then go from there.
And
so
was it hard being very honest in that moment? Like, I know you said you opened up to your boyfriend, but that's your boyfriend and your GP, you know your GP. But then when someone is on the phone to you and they're saying, oh, are your thoughts suicidal and stuff, was it very hard to be open in that moment? Like,
I think it was at first, but you know what? Like the lady that rang me, she was so nice, and she explained to me from the get-go that like it was completely confidential, and she asked me for 2 people that I trusted, like their mobile numbers, and she was like, look, Rachel, I will never ring them. She was like, only if I was ever speaking to you and you raised alarm to me that I thought that you were at danger, she was like, then I would have to ring them. It would be my duty to. But she was like, other than that, it's completely confidential. And she was so reassuring, you know. So
yeah.
I actually felt like I could open up to her like automatically. It was strange because I don't really open up to people that easily, you know.
Yeah, because I know a lot of friends now, they get to the point where they ask for the help, and then they say, all right, what's going on, what are you suffering and stuff, and then they bottle it, you know. Right. But it's so important to actually speak about the problems. Like one of my friends, for instance, now he'd sugarcoat it all together. He'd say, oh, and just ever so often, and it's like, no, you have to, you've reached out, now you have to be brutally honest with them, and the help will come to you then, you know.
Even like making the first step, as in like, you know, if there is something wrong with you and you don't know what it is, just say it to someone, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like
it's a massive
so
step,
important.
Like, you know?
So what did they do after that, Rachel?
Like she was very specific, you know, with the questions she asked. So it wasn't like you couldn't really sugarcoat it. Like, so she was like, today on a scale of 1 to 10, how suicidal are you? You know, and it was questions like that. So it wasn't kind of like, oh, I'm feeling okay today, because she wanted like an answer, you know.
Yeah, you couldn't
and
think
like
about
she asked me like 20 or 30 questions. I'd say I was on the phone to her for like an hour, and I'd say like that, like I didn't want to be dead. Like I even said that to her. I was like, I'm just sick of feeling the way I'm feeling. So obviously, like say if I was out answering the phone to her and was like, look, I'm really suicidal, then I would have got appointments a lot quicker. But the fact that I was just like, I was okay. I was like, you have nothing to worry about. I was like, I'm not going to do anything to myself. I was like, I'm just looking to help myself and get better, like, you know. So after I spoke to her that day, the following week, coming up to every weekend they text you, and they text your phone and they're like, from Pieta, if you need anyone to talk to you over the weekend, ring this number. So it's nice, like, you know, there's someone there, like. And then after that, I got my appointment about 2 weeks later. But like I said, if I was someone that was really at risk at the time of first speaking to her, they probably would have given me an appointment straight away. But they've so many people right now, like she even explained that to me with the virus and everything. Like they've been so busy, even busier than usual the last couple of months, you know. So it's trying to prioritize who needs it the most, like, you know. But when she yeah, so she contacted me after a week, and then every week after, I began 12-week counselling, and it's all over the phone. So she rings me now every Wednesday morning at 11 o'clock, and it'll be for 12 weeks. So I'm more than halfway into the counselling now. I'm actually doing about 6 or 7 sessions with her now, I think. And honestly, like, I could not praise them enough. Like, I went into it at the start thinking like, oh, I feel so miserable, like, and no, nothing anyone's going to say to me is going to make me feel any better, and like all of this. But honestly, I've learned so much from the woman that like has been contacting me from Pieta House. She's been so good, like, and it's so nice to know that, like, in a way it's kind of easier to open up to a stranger on the phone that you don't know than to speak to someone that like is close to you.
Yeah, you feel
And
more
like
judged from
it's
someone who
no
knows you.
judgment.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's no judgment there, and like there's no pressure, like you don't have to speak about certain things. It's literally just someone to kind of like take the weight off yourself and just vent to once a week for an hour. And it's been so helpful. Like, honestly, I think they're so good at what they do, and I didn't know anyone that went to them before me, but like I couldn't praise them enough for how much that they've helped me in the last couple of weeks, you know.
Yeah, Shauna got on we had Shauna on the podcast, and she got on great with Pieta House, didn't she? She really enjoyed it. And like I was going to say, it is a big shame that like they have to prioritize and stuff, but that is nothing to do with Pieta House. That goes down to the government and the funding. That's out of Pieta House's hands, you know what I mean? But like that, like Rachel's story now, just on the mental health in the last few months, it really does show that like medication isn't the fucking, you can't just take a tablet and go woo. Like she knew that it just wasn't working, and like from my experience now, counselling wasn't for me. But what helped me was kind of courses, like learning about anxiety and stuff like that. But like like if you go to your GP and you just listen to the GP's magic words, you will be taking tablets forever. Like counselling is so important.
I couldn't agree with that more.
Like talking and learning is more important than any tablet. Do you know what I mean? It's so important. Like you had such a mad year, like.
Yeah, no, do you know what it is as well? It's just that like talking to yourselves, and the last couple of weeks, like since I obviously started with Pieta House, I've been on my own kind of journey of like helping myself and bettering myself. And like I never found counselling any use to me when I was younger either, but I was like, do you know what? It's no loss if it doesn't work for me, but it's worth a try this time. So like this time around it has helped me, and now I've started doing so much more things in the last couple of months since I started with Pieta House that I would have never done before. Like I haven't read a book since I finished secondary school, and a couple of weeks ago I started reading, and I've started to do just a lot more things to help myself. And then I was thinking, like, if I just started to speak up more, even on my own social media, just to help other people, because like there on Suicide Awareness Day in September, I shared a post about Pieta House or whatever, just to help someone if they've seen it. And I was the same person that was depressed off my head going to counselling that day. And no one knew that. Do you know what I mean? So,
that is so true. That is so true. Like Rachel even said it to me whenever the two of us were talking. Like what Rachel's doing now, like we've done what we've done in other episodes, just sharing your story. Like the amount of people now that's going to hear that and go, oh my God, like another person's being open. It's okay if I'm honest. And then I don't know, look, their mom could walk in the room and they say, do you know what, mom, I actually feel really fucking shit. And it's just like, oh, I didn't get attacked for saying I feel shit. You know what I mean? We big up things so much in our mind. And I want to say as well, Rachel said Pieta House is so helpful. I never went to Pieta House, so I can't say anything about counselling at Pieta House because I went to CAMS and they were a shit show.
I went there too.
Did you hate them as well?
I hated it as well. I went there when I was in school.
Rachel, every person who's came on this podcast and talked about CAMS has shot in them.
They said the same thing earlier.
And everyone's like to Pieta House. That says a lot.
No, I feel like obviously it's like a cliche thing, like open up and like speak to someone or whatever, but like in the last couple of months, I've done things that I've never done before, and obviously they have been working for me. So I'm just hoping that, like, even if one person listens to this, I know there's so many people feeling shit in the last couple of months.
Yeah.
So if even one person listens to this and they were maybe thinking about contacting Pieta House but didn't know how it worked, and they thought twice about it, that it's easy, like it's an easy process, and they're so helpful. So even if you took just that from it, that you can go and contact them, because you know, so many people put up statuses and stuff and they're like, oh Joe, I'm here for anyone if you want to text me, whatever. Like, I would never text a stranger if I was feeling shit. I would never, you know. So like, I'd much rather know that, like, if anyone needed it, that you can literally just ring this confidential number. Someone's there at the other end of the phone that will happily listen to your problems every week for an hour, and it will make you feel so much better in the long run, you know.
Like, I think we really do have to big up Pieta House. Like, they're actually amazing. What I'll do definitely is, on all platforms this is on, I'll put down Pieta House's phone number, their website, anything I can find about them. And we'll show that to Pieta House. But I was going to ask you, Rachel, you said like, as if your year wasn't like really tough enough, and then you went for the counselling, and something happened with you in the counselling that you decided, like, do you know what, I should be open, this is going to help me and stuff. And I remember, I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, you done your first talking on Instagram to like share and stuff. Was that really hard?
Oh, you have no idea of it. Honestly, I was an anxious wreck. You know, it literally, I recorded my story that I put up on Instagram when it was bright, and it was dark by the time I put it up, and I accidentally put it up. I put it up by accident without even realizing, and someone texted me and they were like, oh, fair play or whatever, and I looked at the message and I was like, what's that about? And I went into the message and I was like, oh no. But you know what, I'm kind of glad it accidentally went up, because then I was like, it's up, like, I'm leaving it up now. So many people have seen it, and I'm glad that I did put it up, because so many people have texted me since, you know. So like, I was just thinking the worst, and I was just an anxious wreck and whatever, but since I put it up, I'm delighted.
Doesn't that just show so much? Like, I'm sure the only feedback Rachel's gotten from sharing her stuff on Instagram and talking is positive. But before she shared, her head was like, no, don't do that, someone's gonna and like, it does show how, like, I know we talk about it all the time, just be open. But like, the first time being open, it's much easier said than done. It's really hard. And why is it so hard? I'd love to know. I suppose it's so hard because the amount of people that are open is a lot smaller than the people who pretend that all's fine, you know. But like, all of us together,
that's why I think like these sorts of things are important, you know. Like, if more people were open, then it mightn't be as hard for other people to speak up then.
I was going to say that there. I think everyone talking on our podcast and everywhere else, it's slowly breaking down that stigma. And like, I really do hope someday, like, you just fucking, like, do you know all the people we have on Facebook? Do you know, the way you see someone, you think that that they're loving their lives, but they have their own things going on, that we could just scroll on Facebook and we know that the people we have, they have their own sufferings and stuff. It wasn't just the nice pictures that are being uploaded. The world would be a lot nicer, you know.
What I like about
but see, that was my point as well, because like, on my, like, say just on my Instagram, for example, if you scroll through my page, you'd probably think I'm the happiest person ever. Do you know? So that's why I went on my stories the other day and I was like, Instagram, like, and all social media makes everything look like everyone's just happy and everyone's fine, and it should be more normal for someone to come on their story and be like, do you know what, I had an absolute shit day today. Do you know, and it should be okay to do that.
What I like about this as well, like, it's, you know, like, everyone talks about Pieta House, you know what I mean, and stuff like that, but they might not be the person to go out and get in contact with them. But like, having you on the podcast and you've dealt with Pieta House, it puts a face to the people that they're helping as well. So it's kind of, you know, you're telling your story, but like, when you see Pieta House on, you know, social media and stuff, it's like, oh, it's this group, whatever. But it's like, you know, you've dealt with Pieta House and they've helped you, like, so you're telling your own personal story with Pieta House. So it's going to help a lot of people.
That's a very good point.
And it, like, I feel like I said, it is so, well, I personally have found it so much easier to speak to a stranger than to open up to like the people who are closest to me. So like, there's no point, in my opinion, of putting up a status and be like, oh, like, anyone could text me if they need to, because most people won't if they're feeling that way. They're not going to text a stranger. Whereas if you're sharing Pieta House's number or whatever, and if someone just comes across it and they happen to be feeling absolutely miserable that day, maybe they might actually think twice of just ringing someone that's going to have no judgment towards them, doesn't know them personally. You don't have to sit there and speak to their face or anything. You can literally just get whatever it is off your chest. So it might help someone, you know.
Yeah,
That
definitely.
is so true, actually, because there is so much fucking statuses. And John nearly is, it's nearly jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
I'm open to talk to you. And it's like, fuck off, right? You don't want to hear half of my life, right?
Yeah.
So it's so true to actually share the Pieta House's numbers instead. For all those people who put up a status and they think they're being helpful, saying here for a chat. Don't bother doing that anymore. Put up a
Just
photo.
share Pieta House's posts and share their phone number or whatever.
Yeah.
That's going to be more beneficial, because at the end of the day, even if someone's seen that status and even thought twice about texting someone that put that up, they're not going to, because they're going to be afraid that that person is going to tell someone or they're going to say it to someone else. Whereas you're not going to have that worry if you're ringing Pieta House and speaking to them. Do you know?
That is so true. And what was I going to say there? Like, Rachel, your year has been like, the start of your year was nearly all physical and like extremely physically unwell, like, you know what I mean? And then as that kind of settled, it went into your mental health, of course, you know what I mean? Would you have any advice for people listening about mental health or physical health, like the certain things that helped you get through it, you know?
Yeah, well, I suppose like physically, my advice probably for anyone would be, because just going off what has happened to me physically, would just be that, like, don't take your health for granted. Within 24 hours, my independence was completely taken away from me. Like I said earlier, a week beforehand, I was a person helping someone else. Like, everyone kind of has a habit of thinking like, oh, that had never happened to me or whatever. And it's such a cliche thing, but like, your health is your wealth. And until you're completely bedbound and can't do anything for yourself, that's when you realize that the most. So if anything, it taught me to not take things for granted as much. You know, I was always kind of a person that like was looking forward to something else and like thinking about like the future and like other things that were happening, instead of literally being grateful for waking up that day and being happy that day in the present moment. You know, like everyone kind of has a habit of thinking like, oh, I can't wait for this to happen, or I can't wait for that to happen, instead of being like, do you know what, I'm alive, I'm healthy. There's people, like I was lucky to walk out of the hospital. Like there's people that go into the hospital and don't come out.
See,
you know,
that's
like there
so
was people,
true.
there was people in the same ward as me after surgery, but they had cancer. Like, and then there was me like 20, 30 years younger than some people. And at least I was able to get up and walk out and recover. Like, there's nothing to say that it won't happen to me again. But in saying that, I think everyone just needs to be a bit more grateful for their health. And in regards to the mental side of things, I feel like, I know that's also very cliche to say, but like, things do get better when you do speak to someone. Like, it might take a while. It is true, and but it might take a while. And like, of course, everyone has their down days. Like, it's completely normal to have a day where you feel shit, but when it's a case that like it's not going away and it's there for weeks and weeks, then sometimes you do just need to open up and speak to someone. You know.
So true. And you know, another thing as well that I just came to know about the physical side of things. Anyone now who's suffering, like Rachel suffered with her lungs, and I suffered with my back, and like, there is a thing we naturally do, and our mind is like, oh, if I fucking, like, in my experience, if I didn't lift that telly, I wouldn't have fucked my back. And like, Rachel was like, oh, if I didn't smoke all these fags. And it's like, if you are really suffering with physical illness now, or mental illness, whatever, don't fucking judge yourself for it. You've enough going on. Give yourself a break. Think about all the good things you do, because you've made it this far. You know what I mean? Don't be hard on yourself. And I was going to ask you as well, I've been so happy to have her on. Have you?
Yeah, I was really.
And you thought it was one lung.
Yeah.
How shocked were you?
I thrown into the deep end fairly quickly.
It's fucking mad. I'm so glad you came on the podcast. Did you enjoy coming on?
Oh, I did. I loved it. Honestly, it's something, like I said earlier on, I've never even like done something like this before. It's never even something that crossed my mind until I came across your page only like a couple of weeks ago when I spoke out. But no, I do think it's great. And like, if anything, if just, like I said, if one person listens to this and just takes something from it, it's a job well done.
And then below. And you know what I just thought of? From Rachel going from like, she was really struggling to put up that one fucking story, and then it happened by accident, and here she is on a fucking, now she's on a podcast. Like, fair fucks to you, like, do you know what I mean?
fair play.
Yeah, I really enjoyed you coming on. And I want to say, like, I'm so grateful because the amount of people that, for one, are going to listen and just go, fucking fair play. She's being so open. I'd benefit from being open. Then don't mind all the people who are suffering. Like, it's going to help everybody in some way or another.
Exactly. Like, we don't, like, for people listening and saying kind of, no, speak out. Like, we don't want you to come on the podcast. Not everyone, but you can if you want. Like, but if you feel like you got something from today's episode, like, you know, if your mom does come into the room and you're not feeling all right, just say it to her. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can start with that, no?
Yeah. And come here,
Yeah, and also, like, not many people, like, no one that I know of, like, their lung collapse, and I never heard of it until it happened to me. It actually is really common, but I just had never heard of it before it happened to me. So if anything, it's more just raising awareness that, like, if you feel like there's something wrong, and if you feel like you're really sick, then definitely go and get a second opinion on it as well. Because I mean, if I hadn't went to the hospital when I did at 21 years of age, I could have had a heart attack or a stroke, like, you know. So
Rachel's story is
there's a lot of lessons to be learned.
Yeah, and your story, actually, what I just thought, it really is a sign, listen to your instinct. Like you were saying, even whenever you were still in Meath, wasn't it? Whenever you were in Meath, you were getting the pains in your chest, and you were even thinking in that moment, you were like, oh, should I tell the bus driver or whatever?
Yeah.
It really does show, listen to your gut, because your gut isn't lying to you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I am glad I didn't, though, because imagine if I did, I would have been up in Meath with no family, no friends, 3 weeks in hospital. So thank God I went with my gut instinct, and I got home and I was able to get the surgery and park and everything, like, so I was lucky in that sense, like, but
yeah. And come here, Rachel, we've been so glad to get you on, and I'm just so excited to hear how much people it is going to help, and I'm so excited for you to even show, you know, like, a lot of people who know you don't know all this about you, you know what I mean?
No, they don't, no. And don't get me wrong, like, I'm still obviously not, like, over the moon every single day, but that's what I'm trying to say, is that, like, it's okay to not feel happy all the time, and you can be fooled by someone's social media, because, like I said, if you went onto my page, you probably wouldn't think that I was depressed out of my head for the last 6 months, like, you know.
Yeah. Come here, I just remembered, we completely forgot about giving MT Fitness our little shout out. Do you want to do it?
Sponsor MT Fitness. Thanks for sponsoring us, I suppose. MT Fitness is a personal training gym located in Blackpool. If you want to find them, go on to Instagram at MT Fitness Cork, and you can contact Mark on 083 085 738 4657.
And as we said in the other episodes, especially in this podcast, like, Rachel was on about her mental well-being, and especially with lockdown, and Mark is still doing stuff. MT Fitness is doing stuff for lockdown. You can still work on your physical and mental well-being with MT Fitness in this lockdown. Yeah. So we want to say thanks to him for sponsoring, and thank you, Rachel, for being such an amazing guest and for being so open and honest.
Oh, not at all. Thanks so much for having me. I enjoyed it immensely. Thanks.
Oh my God.
That's brilliant. No
Well,
problem.
now, where do we stop it? No.